So my disclaimers. You'll see a bunch of recreation attempts. Oh, probably. Also, FYI, this is usually a 2.5-hour class. So I hope you didn't have lunch plans right at noon.
I figured it was 2.5 hours.
Okay. So, yeah, so you'll see a bunch of recreation attempts. They're not perfect. You can usually tell those apart by noting like trendy color palettes from like the 90s or early 2000s. And then makeup choices as well. Sometimes they are taking art literally, which does not equate to accuracy. And I wanted to disclaimer the burial goods issue, especially for one of the kingdoms, because it's really early period and all we have is burial goods. But we're not like quite sure if that fully equates to what they would have worn. And then assume undergarments. I'm not covering those, or shoes, or hair that much, or hats. And I'll not do military or royalty because that's way too deep, and that's for another class. And then important to note, Korean garments are not copies of Chinese garments. I had someone the other day say he thought Joseon was just DLC for Ming Dynasty China. And I was like,
not right.
No. And so I told him no. And we had a hard time explaining that, but I think we got it through. So anyway, yeah, keep that in mind. And then a glossary of some terms. Hanbok just means Korean clothing. And jogori is like a short top. I think it's also the term for the man's top as well. Chima means skirt, but like not even specifically like a hanbok skirt. It's just the Korean word for skirt. And cholik means it's like one of those men's garments with like the pleated waistband. And then baji are pants, and jingyong are like what I'm wearing, kind of, where it's a wide collar and supposed to have side flaps, but these don't. And then dalyong is the round collar robe, whether it's an official's robe or not. Gat is this, and usually made of horsehair. Banbi is a half sleeve robe, and that'll sound similar to the Chinese and Japanese terms. Dapo is a coat of any sort, so usually they're half sleeves or something, and they go over another robe. And then saguk just means historical drama.
Okay, just means
and I'm sorry, a period drama, a Korean period drama. And I like using that term because it's more specific.
I watched a bazillion. I have Vicky. Well, I hate to have Vicky. So do I.
Yeah. So influence are going to come from like Northeast Asia, which is here. My friend Suyun made this slide, but she noted it as Mongolia, but it's important to note like there's a ton of nomadic tribes up there that are not technically Mongols. And then there's, of course, from China through the Silk Road, and then Japan and Korea had a close and sometimes fraught relationship. Okay, is that too tiny? Maybe I'll close check for now. Can I just tap that? Yeah. I thought. There we go. Okay. Let's see if I can do this. Up here. Yeah. There we go. And so we're starting with the Three Kingdoms period because I am not, there's not a lot of information about prehistoric stuff and super ancient stuff, because the first records we get from about Korea, early Korea, is through when the Han Dynasty interacted with them. And so it's from Han Dynasty records, which are circa the basically proto Three Kingdoms period. And it's important to remember at this time, there was like the last remnants of the Han Dynasty, and it was kind of acting like, think of the Romans in Britain. They had established like outposts, and they were governing certain areas, but they weren't the majority, they weren't the native people there. So it's kind of like that. And then they got overthrown, and the Koreans were like, go go away. So yeah, and that's right around the BCE to CE turnover. Here's another map because it kind of shows that late Han China Empire reach. And here you can see it's kind of sort of in the north. And then Goguryeo here is the first nation to kind of boot them out. So down here, the other kingdoms were kind of protected from Han Dynasty by Goguryeo being up here in the mountains. Okay, so we have a lot of tomb paintings. That's where most of people's research and stuff comes from. And that's what we have to work with because I don't think we have any surviving Goguryeo specifically clothing. We do have Han Dynasty stuff, which showed some influence, but it was like Eastern Han, not Western Han, which is about a century or so apart. So it's also that issue. And here's a picture of two of those tombs we have. So the left side is Anak tomb number 3, and that's from 357. And then that's a really Han Dynasty style painting. And then the right half of the screen is the second half of 5th century. So only like about 100 years later, but that's a very Korean style tomb painting. And this one here is what a lot of people make recreation attempts of. And you can kind of already see the pleated skirts and then a top. Whereas the Han Dynasty one had other stuff that were very Han Dynasty-like. So here's all the recreation attempts. I accidentally clicked forward, but we'll go with it. So here's 3 of them. If you zoom in on this painting, you can see that there are these detailings on the bottom. And I can get you a link to a pretty big graphic of this if you want. But you can see here, people are interpreting it differently, and we don't have a clear view of the belt because their hands are always folded. And so some people just do like, they mix it up. It's kind of up for interpretation. And then we do know that it was a really shallow overcross here. Whereas like this recreation, man, it's sliding. Okay, I'm just gonna close chat on my screen. There we go. So like this one here is like much more crossed over and thinner and like has modern proportions. Whereas this one, with it being very wide and very long, is probably more accurate. And we've got like, I've got the extant here and then the recreation here and then extant here and then recreation here. These 2 down here are recreations of the one on the previous slide. Let's see if my arrows work. Nope. So big, oh, wow, no. It did work, but it worked too much. Okay, so back to this one. See how she's got like this apron with like the feathers on the side and then like streamers. And then she's got droopy, it's droopy here, but usually that's like an artistic exaggeration of the sleeves being bunched up. So it's not necessarily a tell for how deep these sleeves should go. So I would say these are inaccurate representations.
Yes, did they have, when did they start doing the gold leafing on the clothes? Is that old, or is that just because it's some modern recreation?
I think that particular fabric is a modern recreation, but I do know the woven stuff goes pretty far back. I just don't know about gold per se.
If you say anything, I know when they do like the silver plating or the,
yeah. I don't think we're doing that soon, but not yet.
Sorry.
Like a couple hundred years at least later. But I don't know if it's particularly that far back. Oh, did I skip it twice again? No. Okay. I wish my arrow keys work. Okay, so here's another tomb Muyongjeong, and it's first half of the 5th century, and this one's technically over the North Korean border into China, so that's why it's in Jian City and Chile province. But this is definitely a Goguryeo tomb, because those iconic polka dots. And so the polka dots, and I think at some point we have stripes. And note here on this lady's shoulders, see how she's got like the coloration difference at the top. That is a thing people pick up on, and then they incorporate into a lot of recreations in the future. So if we can find better pictures, that would be great. So these are dancers. That's why their sleeves are really long. And then these are, but you can see the servants are basically wearing the same thing with like just their sleeves punched up. Right. And then an interesting thing to note is they're just kind of like looping their belts over and just kind of letting them flop in the back. There's more recreation attempts from various, I think, like early 2000s and or North or South Korea, quality berries kind of thing. So here you can see that top shoulder bit being represented, but again, they're giving it kind of a deeper sleeve than it might have actually had. And then these are being interpreted with like brocades for the polka dots instead of what they currently think it's like shibori. It's something like shibori making those dots.
What is shibori?
It's a Japanese dyeing technique where you gnaw off the little knobs and then you dye the rest of the garment kind of thing. So tie-dye. Tie-resist dyeing is the technical English term. Yeah. And so this is what they're giving them crowns to kind of show that they're thinking he was like a king-like person, but I don't really know. I don't really know if that because especially for this one, they're incorporating in modern Korean interpretations of what the queen's colors into the outfit rather than like actually just depicting that tomb kind of thing. But I think we do have some extant Goguryeo crowns, so that's what they're trying to do here. Okay. And note the apron up in the corner. We're going to see a lot of decorative aprons. I think they're either ritual or decorative, but I don't think they're like practical necessarily. they're more made to be part of the outfit. Here's the Dokungri tomb, and this one is 408. And here's, you can see, we'll have the next slide, we'll have some recreations, but see how it's like got black lining here and then doesn't quite go down all the way. Whereas these guys, they kind of start and they go down, but then it's just an artistic motif that they just don't kind of finish that line. And so we're not sure if that means the collars up there were thicker or not, but some recreations have just made it a V-neck. So I guess that's a take. So yeah, and then we have this Goguryeo envoy to Tang, China. So we're getting a little later here. And so, but this is, again, this is a Chinese man drawing what he thinks they should look like. Maybe not necessarily that he saw them all. So, but we can probably take, you know, some creative liberties with that brocade there that he's wearing. But we can't assume, like, yeah, he's probably got like the white collar at the top and maybe it stops near the bottom and stuff like that. And since we have pictures down here, this is Anak tomb number 3 again of the cuffed pants. And this was like a more Han Dynasty China style thing. We can definitely assume cuff pants, and we saw cuff pants in the polka paintings too. So cuff pants for men are fine, like bunched up at the bottom. And then again, we're doing a very shallow crossover instead of a like you would think with like kimono or something where it goes all the way, or like what I'm wearing where this comes all the way over to my side. These would just be kind of going shallower. Because, and at this point in time, I might have heard the taboo that like you're not supposed to cross your robes over the other way because it means you're you're cursing yourself to death because that's how it was done in tombs. And later it was made a taboo basically. But in this period, it doesn't matter. Since it's so shallow, you just kind of, you close the robe, you tie your belt. So it's not a taboo. And I can't remember exactly when it comes in, but we're good here, and we're probably good through Tang kind of stuff, but then late Tang on the timeline overall of Asia is, I think, probably when you start seeing things get tied over a specific way. Except for Japanese clothing, it doesn't do that. So baekje. We have a lot of clothing from reconstructed mandalas, which are Buddhist paintings, tomb paintings, some extents, and they had a really close relationship with Shilla and Kofun period Japan, which Kofun period just means tomb period, because they all have very similar period or tomb styles. And then, but that Kofun period in Japan is Asuka and Nara, technically. And then according to the Samguk Sagi, which is the chronicles of the Three Kingdoms, this period that we're talking about, Baekje and Shilla sent their princes as hostages to the Yamato court in exchange for military support to continue their military campaigns, basically. They were like, hey, we need dudes. And so they were just like, here, take my son. So King Ashin of Baekje sent his son Jeonji in 397, and then King Shilsong of Shilla sent his son Misaha in 402. So like it was kind of a continuous thing. And I don't know if it was necessarily like hostage as in like, we're gonna beat you up kind of thing, but like hostage as in, yeah, sure, you can kill him if you want, but we're buds, so don't.
It's an insurance policy.
Yeah, an insurance policy. So here we have some Baekje servants in murals in the Takamatsu Zuka Kofun murals in Nara, Japan. So we know they are Baekje servants because there was like a tomb register, and it said, we are offering to this tomb Baekje servants in the form of mural. so here's some hot Korean ladies, basically. And no one knows, we don't know who the tomb owner is. We haven't dated it yet, so we don't know for sure if they were like, if he was possibly a Baekje prince who had Baekje servants, or if he was just a dude that had Baekje servant women. Yeah. So what we have here is, this is a Japanese tomb, but we know they're Korean servants. But so we have Japanese recreations of this, and you can see this in like the Japanese costume history websites. And we're still seeing the striped skirts, and note we're tying belt really low. And that is a thing that is shown in some other recreations. And we are kind of seeing this tie closure at the top. So in the painting, it's kind of sort of a Y shape with just a tie, but then in this this is one of the embroidered mandalas. And this is also one of the earliest pieces of Japanese embroidery, by the way, if you are interested in that. And then, so in this, we're seeing a bunch of like regular women, and we're seeing tiered skirts here. And then we're seeing the front ties, like on this lady. Oh, do you want to turn off the light so we can see this maybe? Because I've got a glare on my end. But anyway, there we go.
Oh, there you go.
So this is a Korean. Let's see if I can move this again. But you can see here that this here is a Korean interpretation. I've got the thing on my screen. Let's see if I can get rid of it. There we go. This here is Korean, and then this here is a Japanese recreation. I think the same people who did this recreation, but just maybe different photographs or different times. And here's another one. These 6 are from the Baekje Museum in Seoul. And this is a Korean reproduction of a banbi they have. So a banbi is that half sleeve garment and so she's wearing one here. I think this one is also one, but with a ritual apron on top. And here we're saying that this is they said this is where they got the shibori idea from. So like they are replicating some of that tie dyeing kind of technique, because that would have been very labor intensive, and that would have been like something super rich person would have worn. So that's why they're putting it on the king, and then they're giving, this is the prince technically. They were trying to make the royal family here, so. Ooh, go back. Oh well, we're good. Yeah. So here, this would have been the king. This would have been like a prince or something, I think. I'm not sure. It's been a while since I read that one. And then this is just extra armor we have for this period. Here we have that low tie effect that we're doing elsewhere. And then here we have some tiered skirt stuff. And then this is an extant that's in that the Joseon, which is a reliquary from the Nara period that we have in Japan. And so a lot of crane reproduction kind of cross-references Joseon artifacts. So that is a skirt, but it's flat, and then the gathered stuff is only at the bottom. So you would tie it up here at your waist, but it would hang low, and then you would cover that with an overtop, kind of like the low slung ones here. Let me check chat. I forgot to check chat. I don't think I've seen it pop up though. Okay, yeah. Hang tight.
If you have a second, I have seen requests just for all over them. If you could turn closed caption.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I don't know if did that go for the whole thing, or that just this computer?
It should start now. I don't know. Everybody's. Yeah, it's
okay.
Getting you. It's picking you up.
Okay. So it's at least recording the transcript. Got it.
Yeah.
So I guess I skipped the page somehow. But here we have some menswear stuff. I'll move my head again. Actually, let's just move. Drag it somewhere. There we go. Okay. So again, the same mandala, and again we see the center part, and that we even have like the low skirts kind of on the menswear. And then here's that same envoy painting from Tang, China, and this is supposedly the Baekje envoy. And here you can see it's very like color blasted out, and like someone oversaturated it, then up the contrast. And then someone made an exact replica of that digital editing kind of thing. But this one here is a more artistic interpretation of the same one. So, you know, just
I like the neon green.
It's the neon green, yeah. I'm gonna go back a bit, because here on this Gogyo recreation, you can see they're doing that center tie thing. Mm-hmm. And then in like these tomb paintings, it's also like, are we tying it up there? Like, what are we doing? Right. So it could be that tying technique was also used in like Gogyo stuff and earlier. Okay. Gaia. I'm not gonna cover Gaia, basically. They got absorbed into Shilla, and I haven't done enough research into specifics of their clothing, I guess you could say, but like there's a ton of, does that person want in? Sure, I don't see him. He disappeared again. But anyway, so armor geeks really like Gaia because there's a ton of armor. And also there's like some debate between like, especially like super nationalist, slightly racist Japanese people, that Gaia might have been part of Japan at one point. They like claiming that kind of thing. And you'll see it as Kaya or with the G, because that's just how Korean works. And then Shilla, here's their Majesties of Trimeris, and then my friend Song Young-soo, who made their outfits. And because he does a Shilla Dynasty persona. And so, yeah, this is the one where the grave goods are going to come into account, because there's a ton of gold. They were known for gold everywhere. They would make a crown and then bury a king with the crown and not reuse the crown. Like they would just make every king a new crown. So a lot of monies. Yeah. And Korea is very mountainous, and they did have access to that gold. And so they were
just bring me the gold.
Yes. And so here's some recreations. Here's kind of an arrangement of how the ornamentation would have looked. We've got these long, and credit to Sung Myung-soo, that's her mom in this picture. She took those pictures when she was there. Oops. Okay, we're good. I need to either just use the keys or just use the thing. But anyway, so bottom left, we have some recreations, and they're just kind of, again, using that same silhouette, but they're adding like the shawl, which is very iconically Shilla, but once they enter Tang kind of thing. And so they're just kind of saying, oh, this is our attempt at Shilla reconstruction, but they're not like making the sleeves super long. They're just kind of throwing it. And then bottom right is our royal family recreation attempt. And then middle is another I read something yesterday about the belt, and the belt thing came from like those nomadic tribes up north, where you have like the trend of just carrying all your close objects on chains on your belt. And then it turns into basically a symbolic utility belt, like a bat belt. And so like it's got like a tiny miniature hat, but it's an official's hat. So it symbolizes you're doing official government work. And then it's got like tiny little clips, tiny little scissors, tiny little, just very like little set of a knife or a chopstick, like that kind of thing is like all those different things on the belt. And their Majesties of Tremere is custom. They made their own crowns and belts to go with their coronation outfits. So it's super cool. Okay, I clicked the arrow. There, okay. So yeah, moving on from the gold, we would have had gold shoes at this time as well.
Wow.
So like everything. We had rings, we had bracelets, we had necklaces. We had earrings, and I was just looking up to see if earrings were gendered, and so far the answer is no. Everyone just had dangly earrings. And yeah, and so what we're seeing here, and this is kind of what we mean, there's like a ton of crowns. And another thing that was interesting was we have like 5 crowns from like 100-year span, and we're like, wait a minute, there's only like 3 people reigning at that time. Why do we have more than 3 crowns? And so we're thinking like there was a crown for the queen, a crown for the king, a crown for their kid, a crown for everyone, because we have that much gold. And so
Crown for every outfit.
So yeah,
Formal.
a ton of crowns. So this is just kind of an infographic showing the progression over time. On the left, this is Shilla. The middle is Baekje, and the right side is Gaia. So Baekje had more of like a cap shape that you would wear over your top knot, and then you would slide in like really cool antlers or branches, and then Kaya's more toned down, regular stuff. But then again, they existed mostly that really early period before, and like it basically, the early Shilla stuff looked like that, and then over time it became like that. So they just started flexing. Here is a furry artist I found on Twitter that does really good historical art.
I can't get rid of this, I'm sorry.
So he put together these outfits using accents, and I was like, oh my god, this is so good.
Yeah.
But it's a furry artist.
Like, why is this so good? Yeah.
But anyway, so he chose like animals that represent the countries too, because like Goguryeu's founder is legendarily, his mom is a bear.
Oh,
and so a bear. And then Baekje, I don't know if that's a cat or not, but we'll go with it. And then Shilla is a fox, and then Gaia is a deer, because they really liked antler. Like their Gaia is, like I said, really close to that Japan relationship. And if you know anything about Asuka, Japan, ton of deer worship. So anyway, so he's using accents and earrings even, and he's like putting it all together for you in a visual. And I was like, that's so cool. So anyway, we've got like mugs. A what?
The little pebble game.
Yes. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
That's a game of Go. We have an accent lacquer, like super fancy Go table set thing. And we have quivers, and we have like a sword and stuff like that. Lots of beads. And then we have glass. So like the Shilla guy is holding glassware. That's Roman glass because it came over via all the richness. And, and they were like, yeah, we'll take that. So yeah, there's Roman glass in Korea and Japan that from this era. Okay, we made it to Northern and Southern States period. What time is it? 9:30. Oh boy. So, so what happened was Shilla won over Goguryeo and Baekje and Gaya and unified basically the entire southern peninsula. And then Goguryeo retreated to the north and joined up with some nomad tribes up there. I think some proto-Jurchens, but don't quote me on that. And then they became Balhae and Shilla. So it's known as either North and South period, or sometimes we just ignore Balhae and we call it Unified Shilla. So Balhae, there's not a lot. Every recreation attempt that I've seen shows some of this cloud collar usage and like this lady in red and blue. So I don't know where they're getting that from, but so there must be an extant out there somewhere that I just haven't found yet. But most of the time people don't include Balhae garb in Korean garb or clothing Hanbok discussions because they joined with those nomadic tribes, and so they're kind of like not Korean, but they are Korean. So they're both like Korean and not. So they're just like, you know what, we'll leave that be. And yeah, so I'm just gonna skip it too because I haven't found anything. So unified Shilla. This is where we get a lot of interaction with Tang Dynasty stuff, and still a close relationship with Japanese dynasties. And then, yeah, so like the nobles would have been trying to keep up on the trends, but the under the regular people, the underlings, the commoners would have just kind of kept on wearing their same stuff. And the other thing to consider is they're not necessarily buying pre-made clothing, because that's not what you do. You buy the fabric and you bring it home, and then you have your seamstress make it into a way that you like. So even though they are really close with Tang Dynasty, their fashion is not interchangeable, except for, you know, maybe a scarf. Maybe someone got a cool scarf, something like that. But that's a big contentious issue, so keep that in mind. So here I have on the screen, I need to get some dates for those Shilla tomb figures, but I don't have any right now. But the what I have up here is basically a late Nara example. This is also kind of considered early Heian. So you can kind of see that, and then the Tang stuff is up here. And like we're looking at different like picks for what you're combining kind of thing. So like they're all wearing their shawls tied in the front, and they're wearing the little half shirts. And whereas like what we're seeing here is we're seeing all of the like Empress waistline kind of skirt stuff, and then like an overdress kind of thing. So like we're like I said, not interchangeable, but you can see how it's very similar and people can get very confused. And then on the left, everything besides the thing that I pointed out, that Nara example, is all Korean attempts at recreating a Shilla garment. And then here we have some menswear stuff. So on the right is a painting of a traveler that is in Japan, but he's wearing that round collar robe that came in. And you can see it's very long, very droopy, whereas the recreation attempt in the black and the purple, they have very, like their sleeves just meet right there. Like the model right there, the mannequin, it has to literally hold his sleeves closed because they're not long enough to get the look. Same for the guy in the black, they should have been like whoosh, way down here. Because you can see the tomb figurines to the left are all bunched up, and it's supposed to be very droopy. Yeah, and then the middle one. I don't know how great a recreation that is, but we'll see. I have to look more into it. Then we have some funerary statues from about mid 700s, and so we can see that they are using some of the longer sleeves for sure. And then we have 2 Shilla envoys to Tang China. Actually, the right side is the one from that same painting, and then the left side is from a tomb mural of a king, a Tang noble, yeah, Tang king. And then, but that long hair on the guy to the right is kind of an anomaly. So like Shilla men were kind of assumed fruity, but like I don't know if they would have actually worn their hair down, or if like that's just the Chinese painter's opinion that if he's fruity, he would have worn his hair down, kind of thing. So, and like that hat like isn't really a thing we've seen anywhere that he's wearing. So it's just kind of, that's probably artistic interpretation based on what he knows about Shilla. And then the Hwarang. So they're literally flower knights. I have on the screen a bunch of modern media depictions of them. And then the right side, the right 2 are like in museums and technically kind of better, but but you can see the museum even put the guy on the horse's hair down, and they have the shorter kind of top knot hat, which is probably more accurate. And then the left guy, it's interpreted as a whole hat. But like we have a record somewhere that says they wore makeup like women. And so a lot of the modern dramas interpret it as that. and I don't know if there's like a visual to go with that. I think like I found one really old artist reconstruction of a Hwarang that had like the weird angular makeup. And so I hope they're not all getting it from that, but they might be kind of thing. So, you know, it's just be aware of, that's what I spend most of my time doing, is tracing back who drew this. Where did this come from?
Well, and I'm sure the makeup trends really well in like modern Korean media.
Yeah. And so like I think all we have is they wore makeup like women,
right?
But they're not wearing makeup like women would have at this time. Right. So the hair down thing is a classic thing, but so you know you can do that. You could not do that, but you know we're definitely wearing earrings. Yeah. Definitely earrings and a lot of that. But I wanted to point out here though. Remember the shoulder decorations from the Gogyo stuff? So they often choose that red base and then like some kind of shoulder to kind of show that it's early period Korean. And so same even for Park Hyun-sik right here. He's got the like color blocking that people really like to jump on and show that it's an early period drama. So turn the sound off. This is a moving map. That's why I wanted it. But I also want it to go very fast. Anyway, so, I hate that. Here we go again. I wish this would just autoplay at the setting I want, but you know, it'd be great. Of course not. Okay, so basically, this is what what Wikipedia calls the dynastic period, because we have so Gogyo takes over Shilla, because Shilla just falls into corruption and fell. And so Gogyo takes over the peninsula all the way up pretty far north, which doesn't bother China at the time because they're having dynastic issues at the same time. Because halfway through Goguryeo, Mongol Empire comes in, and yeah, so we have basically halfway through the Goguryeo period, they get completely taken over by a Yuan dynasty, but they basically survive it by saying, "Hey, bro, we're like nomadic too, sort of." And so then they just kind of become like little bro to Yuan dynasty to save themselves. And it wasn't great. Like the Mongols definitely destroyed a lot of stuff, and so yeah, but halfway through you'll see a switch to a ton of Mongol style clothing, and that's the main takeaway from that. And okay, so I'm gonna this is a lot of information, so let me see if I covered it. Okay, so basically we're also going to see some similar clothing to Song Dynasty, and like the collar shape is similar sometimes, and like temple statues are going to look a little similar, and so the clothing might be similar, but we don't have any exits from early Goryeo because that was conveniently a lot of the stuff that was lost when the Japanese invaded in the 1600s. So we don't have a lot. What we do have is later Yuan, like post Yuan Dynasty Goryeo stuff. So we have some temple relic finds, like they were refurbishing a temple reliquary, and they pulled out some Goryeo shirts because a mother had like put an inscription on the collar and donated it to the temple, kind of thing. So we have some stuff like that, and then we have but we have a really close relationship with Yuan Dynasty because they're offering tribute wives. It's like a hostage situation again. So they had to send a Korean princess, they had to send Korean women to the capital in Beijing at this time, and then they would send a Mongol from the inner ruling clan they would send a Mongol princess to the Korean king, and then if they had a son, the son would go and live with his maternal side in Beijing, and then would learn those languages. And then when he was of age and needed to take over the throne or at least enter politics in Korea, he would come back to Korea and then become acclimated there. So there's a lot of cross-cultural stuff in the upper classes. And then like near the end, like it's possible that there was Yuan or Korean fashion influence in the capital towards the end of the Yuan Dynasty, but nothing's like super confirmed or anything, because how could you? But for ritual wear, it's kind of assumed that they were still using, similar to the Song Dynasty ritual wear, they were just using their own ritual wear instead of, they're not like being imposed on with Mongol ritual wear or anything like that. And so we have Buddhist paintings that would have been made, and they are wearing the more ritual style wear rather than like what they would have actually worn. So this here is the water moon Avalokiteshvara. And then, so we have that dated from about, this is post Yuan annexation. And so we can see here that like she's got like the feathers and the cloud colors. So this is the queen, this is the king, and this is a very ritual style wear. But their servants down here would have been wearing normal clothing, basically. And so we can see the beginnings of a jobari and a chima. And we're seeing, again, the round collared robe. Basically, the round collared robe is throughout all these here. So it makes it kind of easy for good active wear fit. And we have the Royal Palace mandala, which is also quote unquote late Goryeo, but this is in a Japanese temple because again, they took all the stuff. I'm very mad at them for that. And so we have the queen here, and she's got like the ruffles on the sleeves and the knotwork. And this is again very similar to Song Dynasty palace kind of temple statues. Temple statues is the word I'm trying to think of. But you can see that they're kind of using this kind of clothing. We've got like the rolled over skirt and a lot of cool network and stuff like that. And we're thinking that the maids would have been wearing like more regular clothing again. So here's a Dunmari tomb, which is actually a tad earlier. And I think it's kind of a toss-up whether a tomb would have been a super realistic kind of style painting or whether it would have been more cartoony like this, because this is a more naturalistic style. Like we're not caring about realism. We're just caring that we're hitting the folk style kind of look. And so these are some dancers. Again, they've got the long sleeves that are bunched up. So a girl is wearing pants and to dance in, and they're big poofy pants, which are cool and great. But I don't know if this is a low. It looks like they're on their hips to me, but it could be that it's just waist, and since it's in that style, it's hard to tell. This is just my sketch, my artistic rendition, because you can see that they're starting to do the white collar protector on the clothing. Here is another tomb we have of Pak-ik, and this is like a century later, and you can see all the very Yuan style like clothing. We have the hat mostly, and so we have these early hat pictures, and we know we're still keeping the round collar robe, but our joguri would have still been pretty long, but we're like tying it underneath now, kind of, instead of on top yet. So yeah. And then here's the extents we have. They're really low quality screen grabs from a Zoom lecture I was in, and I haven't found pictures of it anywhere else. But she was saying, so this is like an undershirt, and you can see it's got that round slope to it, and it's pretty thin. And then this, the lecturer said, was a Chinese style collar, which I'm not quite sure if you would have worn these two things like at the same time, or if like this would have been an undershirt scenario and this would have been like an upper shirt thing. But anyway, yeah, that's what we got. Sorry guys, I'm zoning out. Here's some recreations. The two on the left are from the temple maids, or the queen's maids in that mandala. And so we're trying the rolled collar thing, the rolled skirt thing, and we're tucking in and all that. The thing that I think would have been inaccurate, because this is just a literal interpretation, is the skirt length. Probably. Either we would have had the curved shoes kind of style thing, or we would have not had it this long. And then these two here are the same, are interpretations of this painting, which is similar to this one, which is the one I showed you, but I wasn't able to get a date on this one. I was only able to get this clipping. But we have this extant piece here of fabric from Goryeo. So that's what this is using here. But I think this is seeing the slope here and interpreting it literally. But at this time, we probably wouldn't have done that. We don't really have curved stuff. We would have kept it long and flowing. So this is probably a literal interpretation of an artistic rendition. And this one here, since it's got either a long front or an apron, this person interpreted it as an apron. So, but we're not quite sure if it's just a long front with like maybe the back tucked in, or you know, I'd have to find a clearer picture and see more stuff. Here we have some late Goryeo noble women's wear. I have this picture is a LVII Dynasty picture, and I kind of wanted to show how it's tied because it looks very similar to this, which I still haven't figured out where this is from, but I know it's got that early 2000s hair game. And yeah, so not sure where it's from, but a lot of people, like, if you look at one of the books, actually, the artist in there has a direct drawing of this, but she made the hair look better. But this is technically, like, I don't know, someone said like early Joseon, I think was what the blog said that I got it from. But anyway, so not sure about the long danglies, but we do have the long belts for sure, just like the Liao stuff. And then this is one of the few paintings we have of a Goryeo noblewoman. But I think she passed away right at the turnover to Joseon, and then her like grandson or son commissioned this for like a temple offering painting. So again, we're like kind of, it could be literally what she wore, or it could be like an ideal version of what she wore, so we're not sure. But we've got the top, and we do have a couple of pictures where the sleeves are pulled back for fashion purposes and of the outer garment, and then we are leaving it open, and then we've got like a skirt underneath. So, and I think we have one other that looks more like this lady right here. I think there's another, wait, it's either this lady or this lady that there's another extant Goryeo noblewoman painting. So yeah, long sleeves. We still got the over thing is really long or tucked in, and I think you can kind of flex it back and forth, I think. And then here's some menswear. Again, the later period stuff is just kind of that cholik is directly imported from a Mongolian deal. And so here we have a reproduction of another temple find, where it's got the ribbon pleating in the front, and you can see it's got that double seam collar. And you can see, like, even in the artistic renditions, they're trying to include the double seam. There's a double seam here. So just keep that in mind. And it would have been that ribbon would have been around the belt or the belly. It wouldn't have been higher like the other stuff. Here's a reproduction of a dappo, like that overgarment, and then we have a painting here on the right of the Goryeo, late Goryeo official. Again, the double collar. It's like a double seam collar. I don't even know if there's a word for it, but yeah. Now we're in Joseon. Almost 10. Okay, and then yeah, Joseon goes all the way to 1897, but basically, FYI, I'm stopping at around 1600. And then, but the Imjin War happened from 1592 to 1598, and those are also called the Japanese invasion. So I've got a map right here of how and when those invasion waves happened. And then Ming loaned them some troops, and then they were able to help push back the Japanese. But they got that far up, basically, is the issue. So they had, we had a lot of Shilla and Baekje temples and palaces down there. We had, I think we lost the library. They were able to save that Triptaka, and they moved the entire Triptaka wood print that they had up. So it was saved from the Japanese invasions, but a lot of stuff like people were kidnapped, forced into noble families in Japan. They stole artisans. That's why Edo Japan has a really booming porcelain culture, because they literally kidnapped and enslaved Korean pottery workers, brought them to Japan and said, hey, make us have good porcelain too. So yeah, there's a lot of techniques were lost, a lot of knowledge stuff was burned, and yeah. And it doesn't help with the Japanese colonialization at the end of Joseon anyway, because we lost even more there. So we have some early paintings, early Joseon paintings. So this is mid-16th century. And you can see that the women, most likely Giseng, are in the front there, like ready to serve. This is a painting of like a festival where, I guess once you've like retired kind of thing, or hit 60 years old, they basically like threw this cool retirement/birthday party for you. But I think the pink wearing kind of goes with that, like you wore the pink round color robe with that. But anyway, women, this is the women's section. So the women, you can see that they're starting to get the that underarm. It's not really a gore. Is it a gore? I can't remember technically the definition of gore. But so they've got like regular sleeve, but then right here under the sleeve on the sides, they would have that red alternate color. Yeah, paneling. So it's like just right there under the arm. And yeah, that kind of word. I don't really know. I know there's like a word for it in Korean, but I don't know. And then you can see that they're wearing some kind of hair wrap, like with their braids around it. It's like that light gray patch in the middle of the back of their heads. And you can see it here too in the upper left. Those women are wearing it. And these women in the yellow are Giseng, because Giseng wear the yellow outfits when they dance. But you can see that up in the top left, they've got a long joguri. If you can see some have a gusset, some don't, and then they're just wearing basically normal women's wear. Yeah, that's what we got. But the way that they're like this rabbit ear hairstyle, I think is a Giseng thing specifically, and whereas like the ones with just the head flap things. Song Young-soo did like a little research dive into it, and she said apparently it was banned in later Joseon because it was supposed to be like a face covering when fluffed over, but then you could fluff it back, kind of thing. And so it was banned because you can't go showing off women's faces; they're too hot. So yeah. And so that, like, this is where a shift, I forgot to mention that the shift from Goryeo to Joseon included a lot of like conservative Neo-Confucian stuff, and was part of the takeover because it was like, oh, you're too corrupt, oh, you're spending too much money on your stuff, and so you're being too flamboyant basically. Or if they were spending the money on Buddhist art that was like too superstitious for the Neo-Confucians, they were like, it was basically like the rational movement. They were like, ew, like don't be like superstitious, just like have good morals. And so that was part of the government overthrow and all that. And so anyway, we've kind of switched from, in the Goryeo art, like the Buddhist art, you saw like a lot of the servants even had like the little gold brocade kind of. Let's see if I can, how far back I can go. It's too far back. Okay. But basically we've got like solid colors or monochrome fabrics. We still have brocades, but they're monochrome now. They're not really, and the gold would have been sumptuary law, like relegated only to the king or royal family. So yeah, anytime you see the gold trim on a dress, that's like a royal family thing. Everyone else would have just had regular non-gold plated brocade. And you can see these recreations both have, or a lot of them have that front panel in a different color than the rest of them. That is something menswear did not do, as far as I'm aware. And you can kind of see here, a lot of people assume since modern hanbok is worn up around the bust, that that's where you wear it historically too, but really I think it was around the waist, because we have some like bra bands and stuff like that but we would have basically been wearing it around the waist. Because that's where all that weight can sit anyway. So you would have had like a petticoat, you would have had maybe a secondary petticoat, you would have had like pants, your bloomers underneath basically, you would have, and then you would have had the outer chima and sometimes a gauze chima on top of that for fashion. So, and that, so it kind of rose when the chobari started raising because you don't want to expose anyone's boobs if you don't have to. And so, yeah, it would have been just fine on the waist. Here's some extant skirts. Here you can see there was like a couple decades worth of a trend where you just kept it super long and then permanently sewed it up in the front. So like that's on the left here, even though you can tell it's an early 2000s creation. And I don't think they made her sleeves long enough. They did show that skirt. So it trails in the back when you have it pulled up like that in the front. And so that's why on the extents you'll see the skirts look like this. But then over here, so that was like, that's somewhere in the 15th century. I don't have a specific date for it, but the Lady Han one from right at 1600, it doesn't have that at all. It's like straight across. And here we have some chogori. I have the dates next to them. Madame Shin's is 1633. I included that one because it's like just out of period for us. And you can see how the collars on the earlier ones, they go straight and then have just a flat 90-degree notch. But then the later one on the bottom left is, it starts to have that diagonal notch. And the other two would have had the ties as well. They just fell off. And I made it so that the collars are all the same distance across. So these are all essentially 1-to-1 ratios. So you can kind of see some sleeves can be longer, some can be shorter, but that width, so like that, like even on the Tomb of Madame Song, that would have been her wingspan. So that's how wide the body is that. And here I have a video that shows it, even though, and it's kind of exaggerated because the camera film is stretched to fit the ratio, but you can see how wide the garments are and how, because we're showing off wealth, because we can't show off wealth via gold anymore, so we're showing it off via abundant fabric. So, because that fabric was basically how you paid your taxes. Or you would receive your noble stipend in fabric, and then you would pay taxes in fabric. So like you would pay your taxes that way. So we had a ton of fabric. We were making a lot of fabric, and it's very, very wide. Lots of fabric. If it's not baggy, you're not doing it right, basically. Okay, back. Hope it starts where I had it. Yes. Okay, and so here we have a couple more recreations. We have 2 or 3 recreations of the one extant gauze chima we have. It just looks really cool, so people do it because why not? Yeah, and then but we can see here that you can basically date a garment by how low this is and like the notch of the collar, and then how, because this one's really high. So this probably is just more inaccurate because I don't know how far along the gauze chima goes, but we do have gauze basically throughout period. So, I mean, I don't know how it went in and out of fashion. That's something I have to look into. I don't think I've seen a blue. It would like have a little number on the chat bubble, right? If someone's saying something, I think so. And then women also wore round colored robes for ceremony purposes, and then they would like stick their husband's rank patch on there too. And sometimes you could like have one just for a festival. It would have like a festival patch. Here's an extant one. It's called a wonsam. And it's generally like that, looks like a short sleeve, but it's still kind of like here. And then because the regular sleeve would be out here, like way past your arm. And then, yeah, so, and then you would wear a belt over it. And you can see there's some pleating and yeah. Song Yeon-soo also, she recreated one of this for her elevation, if you want to look at what she did. And then we have some veils, hats with veils, because again, women kind of got shafted in this. They were like, yes, we must hide our wives, hide our children, hide our wives.
We're such terrible people. We can't look at other people's wives.
We have to. I mean, if any of you took Tsukime's, I think it was Tsukime's Japanese kosore kind of class, she kind of explains like how closeted palace women were, like closed off from the world, that it would have been like a weird like shyness factor. Like you like, man, I'm just gonna cover my face when I go out in public kind of thing. So like, yeah. So it's kind of like that. Like we don't have to interpret it as like oppression or anything. It's just kind of like A, keeping my skin from getting sunburned. B, like I don't want people to see my face if I think it's ugly kind of thing. Like B, and 3, like it was just, you just didn't really need to go out and like expose your face and like start a scandal kind of thing. So like while you're at a market, you get the fight and you just want home kind of thing. But usually you would have had your servants do that. But then, so the top right and the 2 jackets that are longer, those, when I pulled them, were called hats because they weren't really used to be worn as jackets. They were worn over the head, like in the picture. Similar to what Japan had specific garments that looked like jackets, but you just made the collar differently because it's meant to sit more forward. So you would just wear it as a hat. If you really,
the sleeves on those are like completely not useful.
I mean, there's still holes, so like you could like put it over your shoulder and like stick your arms through it if you really wanted to, but like basically it was just worn like that. Like you didn't need to spend all that time like get your sleeves in and out. It was too much work. So you would either like wear it over your shoulders like a blankie or put it over your head kind of thing, like a cloak. And I recently found this one down here, but it's just, I think it's like 1640 something. So, but I thought it was interesting because it is still black. Like somehow the black color stayed intact apparently. And it's patchwork. So you can kind of see like there's a bunch of different pieces of like scrap veil, kind of scrap silk. So you're not like, yeah, I don't know. They didn't have any information on that. But here's the other extant one that's earlier, and it's kind of more nicely made with like the actual symmetrical panels, kind of. But this one's just kind of pieced together, which I thought was interesting. Oops, I did it twice. And then here's just a video of them flaunting the veil. But it would have been sheer, so you can see through it, and yeah. And then she's wearing a jacket normally, like a coat. But just like note that you can roll the sleeves. Those would have been long sleeves and then rolled back kind of thing. Very baggy. Very baggy.
Yeah.
And so menswear, same picture as before, but to kind of show the hat and the beads and round collared robes. I'm kind of skipping through this because I don't know how much time. Oh, that computer threw me off because it said 10 o'clock and I was like, what? How is it just 10 o'clock? Okay. So it's 11 right now-ish. Is that what time it is? 11:12. Yeah. Okay. So it's just an hour off. So we have round colored robes. Basically, this is just like your government outfit, your utility outfit, your just kind of, because you can see that the guys over here in white, they're serving stuff, they're the servants, but they're wearing like round collar robe and normal stuff. So it was just kind of, you work for the palace, just throw on a round, or you work for a nobleman, you're at a party, you put on a round collar robe over your top and pants. So here we have some, here's the pink ones you're seeing in those paintings. We actually have an extra one that's still pink. So it's made of cotton. So it's just kind of like the generic kind of utility shaped one where the sleeves aren't fancy, it's just cotton, you just, you know, you can get it dirty, that kind of thing. And then the one behind it is, I think mostly contemporary, because you can, the way you can kind of date these is where their flap is, how it's angled, I mean. And so this here has a bit of a droop because again, we're flaunting the fabric by length, by width, I mean. And then these are like side plates, they're like, there's like 4 layers there. It goes like this, and then goes in, and then there's an open slot, and then it goes this and goes out. So you've got basically a 4 fabric thick is what those pouches are. And you can kind of see here on the pink one, since it's slightly transparent, you're not cutting the edges, you're just literally just tucking it in at a 45 for both those pleats. So yeah, and then here we have one that didn't have a date when I looked it up, but it had a belt with it, which was just regular fabric belt. So I thought that was interesting, but it didn't necessarily specify if it was a woman's or a man. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But you can see that we're moving forward through the century because the side pleats are now getting higher. And we have a bit of a dip to the sleeve. Now this one, I just found this and put it in here. It looks much clearer on my screen somehow. But this is one that they think was one under basically one of those other ones. So you can see the seam work and like there's patching at the shoulders and it's just not, it's just a plain unlined cotton. You would wear it underneath one of those. And I just found that. I thought that was super cool because I hadn't seen one of those before. And then cholik. So again, we have the cholik that came over with the Joseon Dynasty, but now we're making it even more Korean. And so we have it basically being worn. This was kind of like an active wear outfit. You would basically have something like this underneath, and then you would just put this on over top. And then you see it's got like butt flaps, and you can see on the mannequin, even though I couldn't get the mannequin to stretch back out, it like imported that way. But that pleating basically would have started at your hips, your lower hips. And then, so these still would have basically been going down to your knees or so. And then the skirt, but the skirt starts right here at the hips. And so it's kind of an active wear outfit. You can go horseback riding, do archery in it, that kind of thing. And then I really want to make the detachable sleeve one day because I think that's so cool. Like and they had names for each different type of like sleeve type or pleating or and basically the geezers at the top were like, this is too much. Like we're gonna sumptuary all these out.
That's one way to do it.
So they're like, this is too flamboyant. We just need one simple man's garment, one simple like riding garment, one
Sounds about.
And so yeah, they just basically outlawed some of these. So you can kind of date them based on that. But luckily, you'll see when he turns around because he's wearing like his his regular military hat, but when he turns around, he's got no butt. So that is some of them are really long in the front and short in the back, and that's theoretically for writing as well. So yeah, it's just really fun to see that. So I put it in there. And then here's more tuples. So these are earlier ones. 58 centimeters wide. I gave the measurements on the left because I think they're slightly smaller, but you can tell that they're really early period because they slope downward at the plates. So basically just that's pretty fun. So here we have some later ones. You can tell because they've gone back up. I just found one on the left yesterday as well and threw it in here because I hadn't seen that angled pleat on the sleeve there. That was cool. Whereas like the one that's basically contemporary has a lot more space to it, and then like so they're close. They're the same name. They've got the same collar shape where it like goes down into it. Oh no, this one's made wrong, but it goes down into like a nice point. It has an elegant line to it, but you can see the one on the right has that middle seam still, but the one on the left doesn't seem to have that. And the one on the left is transparent as well. You can kind of see it's a gauze as well. It was like a summer wear one. And it was indigo at one point. At one point. Here is a reproduction, and this is an extant belt, and I really like that because that's why I've been just getting these belts, because they're really only about this. They're this wide and they're flat. The tassels on the end, so there's no. You can totally do that, but I asked Pervious, who sold me this belt, if he could get one that had all the, so the tassels on this one have tiny little diamonds in it, or like gems of some sort. I can't remember what kind of gem, but basically they're flaunting the wealth again in very subtle ways because they are trying to get around those near Confucian ideals of basically if someone was being overly flamboyant, then someone would start breathing down her neck, but yeah. But they still kind of did. So
we're being quote unquote thrifty, but they're not at all.
Right. So they're flexing in the brocade complexity. They're flexing it and putting gems in their tassels.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So, and then we have the beginnings of a square collar neck over robe, which is called a manyo. That one's probably it. So yeah, we've got a square neck kind of coming in, but it's very subtle. And then I put the one in the middle because that's a very, you can see the drastic difference in the silhouette. How it got longer, the waist kind of went closer up to the armpits, and we're accentuating that kind of A-frame kind of look. That is very iconic for later stuff. Yeah. And like a lot of people ask this, like, is there a cloak I can wear with my Hanbok? It's like, no, you just quilt it. You just make another one, but you quilt it. Or like you put on quilted pants, or you put on a quilted under jacket and you wear the same outer stuff. So like, you know, there's 5 million ways around it, basically. Yeah, no coats. They're already wearing the coats. It's just many layers.
Everything is a coat.
Yeah. And the one in the back, I kind of put next to it because it's showing that later silhouette as well, with how narrow the torso is getting. And then I have a video of some more dudes showing a couple of the extents that I had pictures of, or a couple of the repros that I had pictures of. And that kind of shows you how long the sleeves are supposed to be, how wide those patches are supposed to be. So like when you're seeing extents and you're seeing that they look long and short, they're not. they're much longer. And so again, like if it's not baggy, you're doing it wrong. Here's a get ready with me video. I wish you would do more of these, but mostly just memes around on YouTube instead. But this is the only one of his videos that's like in period for us, because this is technically a like late Goryeo, early Joseon outfit that he was basing this off of. So here you can see he's doing a cholik with the ribbon pleating, and it would have inner ties. It's so much pleating. Again, this is how you show off your wealth.
Yeah.
Just how much more fabric does it take to do that? Seamstresses.
Seamstresses, yeah. So yeah, you would have had like 2 ties on the left. I think the one that he's got, since the notch looks kind of funny, he might have just ordered that from like Taobao or something. But you know, it gets the concept across. And again, the sleeves are properly long, and you would have had like an undershirt and he showed like a later period one there, but this is that square collar one, kind of like the frog closures in the front. That was pretty cool. One day. One day. One day.
So much.
Oh yeah, because that's polyester.
Like all of that. Like I just would die.
Yeah, I mean that's the main issue with all this layering, is especially when you have to either get something organic, and breathable, like they would have had.
Exactly right. Exactly.
Because they had abundance access to silk.
Yeah.
So they were just like, yeah, sure, we'll make all 3 layers of silk.
Or like 7 layers on top of each other.
And you know, we've got like 3 different types of silk gauzes. We'll just make each layer a different gauze. And so I just thought this was interesting because it shows that a cord belt can hold a whole sword.
Yes.
Which I think is cool. I didn't think about that before I had seen this video.
Tie properly, yes.
And then yes, Korean swords are supposed to be with that to the back.
Oh, interesting.
And then the hat. And then to close it, to keep it on your neck, you could just do this. And now it won't fly away.
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah. Decorative and useful. Okie doke. So here's some later period ones. You can see, like on this medallion, how high up that side pleat is getting. It's like I think Imjin Dynasty is doing something similar, but not on the same timeline. And so I think they get the higher pleats earlier, but yeah, once it's going straight up like a wing, then you're like, okay, this is out of period.
Yeah.
It's kind of a surefire way. And then I thought the sleeves going like straight, like really deep, really fast is kind of another tell. But I did see one recently that is different. So here's an example of what I mean, how this is definitely out of period, because the sleeves just go straight down. It's not a gradual plump sleeve. And then that waistline got really high and the body got narrow. And then here's some extra hats. I need to get dates on these, and eventually I'll do a hat class. But yeah, so we've got basically the ones you're seeing in K-dramas are that conical kind of, no, what's the word? Cylindrical shape, and that is not period. So but that's the easiest one to get. So like no one's gonna like hate you if you wear like an out of period hat. But because I was able to get one of those on Amazon, whereas this I had to get off like Taobao somewhere and then like change the bead, and I don't even know if it's close.
I'm like, I'm not sure how.
Like I think it's supposed to be slightly broader, and then like also the broadness of that hat is like a stratification eventually. So like, so yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. So here's a quick graphic that I thought was really useful that a blogger on Naver made, but basically it shows that early Three Kingdoms, how it's really like low and shallow, and there's just a little bit of that overhang, and then and it's pretty just straightforward. And then but I don't know if the sleeves still would have been long and could have been multiple panels. And then the next one down is, I think, I think it just means early Goryeo, because the next one down is the Goryeo, and then the last one is Joseon. But the second one is just kind of like a transitional mock-up, I think. And I can link his blog if I remember which one it is. I think in Korean and Fusion it was just the rock. I'll have to find it. But anyway, so you're gonna be basically working with a certain panel width. In period, they would have had a pretty wide panel to work with. I mean, as you could have seen on some of those really wide pieces. But you can also piecework thinner bolts. So like I try to get kimono bolts, and they're only like this wide. And so, but that's perfectly period as well. There's accents that use the thinner bolt, and there's accents that use the wider bolt.
How wide of a bolt do you think?
That's an oddly question. She was able to spell out that number right away, but I can't remember what she said it was. Basically, I can visualize it, but I don't know. What is that? Couple feet, I think, because the looms were like they could get pretty big, and then the actual product I think was about this big. And then we have smaller looms that made them only like this big. So the loom depth width is definitely variable. So we want basically Ramies and silks, and you can do cottons. As we saw there, we had cottons. So cottons are, of course, always an option. It would have been kind of a luxury good, but I know most people are going to do later period where it was a readily available luxury good, whereas like earlier, it would have been harder to find, and you would have done it with Rami or silk. Yeah, I don't know if anyone wants to take a picture of that or whatever, but I have all that information if you ever need to find any. It's really not that hard. I just found another Indian silk seller yesterday that had some more of the brocade stuff that would work for like maybe like Goryeo or something that had a little bit of the flash gold kind of thing. So there's more all the time, and I've been having luck looking up the word checkered linen since someone told me that I saw someone at Crown Tourney like earlier this year, and then I was like, wow, that pattern on your skirt looks really good for Korean. Where'd you get that fabric? And she was like, oh, the fabric store or whatever. And I looked, they didn't have it, but then I was able to look up checkered linen, and I got something with the same pattern but in a light blue. But it turns out that it's like a tablecloth fabric. So I found another one that looked really good that was in a red that had a really good pattern. I'm going to flip forward to the pattern so you can see it. So it's kind of like that flop floral pattern on the right. And it was a monochrome red with like a slightly less red. So like it was like one of those reversible pattern kind of things. But it was like $90 for a 3-meter long tablecloth. And I was like, I don't know if that's gonna be enough. I don't know if that'll work, but eventually I'll hunt down where they're getting their fabric from, right? Because I want it. And then Rim Kim Studio offers Korean silks that are in that monochrome color, because I find the issue with looking up like polyester silks or stuff from like Joann's, or even stuff from China, is that they have all that gold in there, and if you're doing late period, you can't have all that gold in there.
Right, yeah.
Right. That's a royal thing, so it's hard to find. But then these are like from those Goryeo paintings, and you can see we've got like the gold rondels, and then we've got kind of like the diamond work stuff that you can see in Japanese fabrics. And same with that hexagon fabrics there too. And my friend Suyun has like a whole Google Drive of, she's pulled the patterns from different Asian textiles and then sorted them by like region and date. She likes databasing, so it's kind of like just a side project of hers, but she's the one who made this slide and pulled these pictures. So yeah, if you're ever wondering what exit fabrics you can look for, just hit me up and I'll show you that Google Drive or whatever.
Did it have to be pattern, or could you just use a solid?
You could just use a solid, like that pink round collar robe that we had. That was just solid color. So, but here, so that bottom left one is from Rim Kim's studio. I'm gonna try to get that from her, but that's like a gauze, and that's like the 5 treasures print. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
I think it was called the 5 treasures print. And then that top left couple diamond shaped one is from that Indian brocade seller I just found yesterday. And then the bottom right one is the one that I just found that is that jacquerie linen. And they only have like 1 meter left, so I hope they restock. Yeah. But basically all of these will be very applicable, especially the bottom 2 being monochrome. They would be applicable later period, and then the fancier, more colorful stuff would be earlier period. Here's my questions portion. The next portion's pop quiz, I guess. So, what time are we at? 11:30. So we got like 30 minutes ish. Yeah. Any questions before I move on? Okay. Basically,
when did they start doing the gold leafing on the clothes? Is that out period?
Oh no, it's definitely in period, because I mean Shilla Dynasty existed.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so basically, gold applique to fabric, probably, definitely in Goryeo.
Okay.
But because either you would have done the fine gold thread and woven it in, or you would have done the basically the gilding. Yeah.
That's what I've seen.
And there are some summary laws about the gilding in early Joseon where they were like, stop putting gold on your clothes. Only the royals can do that.
But like if you wanted to do a silver gold or something like that, that would probably be okay, or is it just only gilding for royals?
I don't know for sure between the metal colors. Because the thing I was reading about Shilla earlier was that like some of the crown pieces had silver and gold and gilded bronze, and so like they were like putting it all over. So I don't know if there's like, I'm trying to look into to see if there, when the sumptuary laws start happening, to kind of determine when it started showing up. But I'm fairly sure the gilding thing was pretty early, because I know definitely in Goryeo.
Okay.
Goryeo is when.
So that it started in like Goryeo or Joseon.
Or because it existed all through Joseon, and then it definitely existed through Goryeo, because some dynasties doing it and on their clothing, and so Goryeo is probably also doing something similar, but I don't know how earlier than that it goes. It's basically what I'm saying. Yeah, and like I said, pre-Neo-Confucianism, you can be as gaudy as you want. like people were getting pissed that like non-nobles were starting to wear like gold kind of stuff. So anyway, so this is from Queen Sondok, which is an iconic drama, but they got so much wrong in the costume department. But it's so iconic that I think basically every drama based in Shilla or around the Three Kingdoms basically bases their outfits on this drama, rather than accent stuff, and so it just kind of becomes like this nebulous, oh, this is early period Korean. But here you can see the checkers and like the shoulder coloration, again the black and red on the military guys, and then the lady in the back with the striped skirt is actually probably the second. But then the queen here, she's doing a bit of the belt thing, but mostly it's just bling. Yeah. So much bling. And then the yellow and red, or the yellow and black coloration stuff, that's a very like late period perception of what a queen or king would have worn. And because queens wouldn't have worn it, but kings would have, and she's acting as a king historically. So so they put that like imperial yellow on her, but it's not really a thing. And then here's more promotional pictures of that, where we have hair down galore everywhere. And then again, like they have this little like they're taking the shawl thing and then tucking it in to like that ritual apron thing that they've shrunk and put up by the bust. And so, but that weird like flap at the front has kind of become synonymous with Shilla in like the mentality of modern day Koreans because of this drama. So that's why you'll see this weird little flap thing in like other dramas.
Basically, whenever we see that, that's not it.
That's not it. So here's Moonlover's Scrub.
I was like, this is the only Korean drama I've ever seen.
I thought it was.
I've seen I've never seen it.
I watched so many Chinese dramas, but this is the only Korean drama I've ever. I own it on DVD.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I hate trendy, so I hated this one.
It's so extra. Everything about this drama is extra.
It's too much. So, but anyway, so I just put pictures of it in here because you're seeing the shoulder flaps on that one girl.
Yeah.
And you're seeing it here. See that lady on the left with the purple?
Yes.
That's just like, it's not a thing.
Yeah.
And so it's just a decorative thing, but you can see here, even in like stuff that's set in Goryeo, is taking on elements from Queen Sondok.
Yeah.
So
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Have you seen My Country on Netflix?
I didn't finish watching it.
I just didn't know if like
I have pictures from it in here.
okay, because that was kind of what I was basing it, because I want to be at that turnover.
The turnover point, yeah. So it's not gonna look like that drama at all. But so we have here, I just looked up some, like a list of songbooks and pulled some that were set pre-1600. So here's one called Fugitive of Joseon, and it's theoretically before 1600, but you can see they're using like really thin, the more narrow waist stuff, narrow sleeve stuff, and then they're doing the deeper sleeve there. So it's kind of like an English period drama.
Yeah.
They just pull from the communal costume department sometimes and throw it. Like you can see extras wearing the same thing. If you watch too much drama, the extras will start looking the same. But like I think they do try to make the main characters' clothing from scratch when they do dramas.
I didn't watch someone going, hey, I recognize that fabric.
And then this one's from The King Loves, which I might try to watch eventually, but I just pulled this screenshot because he looks like he's in some kind of Ren Fair.
It looks like he belongs.
Totally.
Which I thought was great. But again, we're doing the weird, so the studding is from Queen Sondok. If you remember what the guys were wearing, the military guys, they had studs and they were wearing the red and black. So like they're paying homage to that, but he looks like some bad like Ren Fair elf.
It's not a good look.
And then again, the hair down, that's a wig thing, that's a costume department thing. But the guy, like when they do it for the servants in the back who are wearing like the official hats, I hate that so much. So like the hair's down, but they have a top knot hat on.
Right. What do you do?
Why do you need a top knot?
And then also the really Western kind of looking buckle there. It's really funny to me.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to point out the belt here on her. that's a very, like, see how all of his belt too doesn't really have a buckle. It just exists. And so that's a very modern cinema thing. That's not, it would have been like, you know, a big bow tie. You would have just tied it in the back, kind of like those early tomb paintings we saw where they had it looped around the bit. Yeah, it would have been a full string and like all the other accents where it just had a big fabric belt. Just been bow tie or twist it around a couple times and move it over. This is definitely a modern thing, and they're kind of taking from kimono fashion sometimes when they do that. Like I know some Chinese dramas literally have used kimono fabric to make their like queen's robes or something. So it really like starts muddling everyone's perception when you're just pulling your information from dramas. So they're kind of taking on that kind of obi look, but the way that those are tied is they have like four little strings in the back, and then there's another picture. Here's another one that's supposedly set in Goryeo, and then the one on the right is just pulled from, I don't know what drama that is, but I liked it because you can see that they're doing like a weird homage to that up pulled front. But they put it in the back too, so I don't know if they knew what they were doing. But anyway, you know, they're paying an homage to it rather than like trying to replicate it. And then on the left here is the Goryeo thing. Literally anytime it's Goryeo, hair is down.
Hair's
Goryeo
down in those headbands,
or earlier.
Like they love those headbands. And dramas.
So it's fun, but they are using the excuse kind of like that one Shilla painting. that Chinese.
Like it totally happened.
It's fine.
Everyone has
And I really like the his royal outfit down there that has like the weird like archery shoulders on the side. I saw I was watching another drama where it was set in Goryeo and they did that too. I was like, you guys are all sharing.
It's the same costume.
You're all sharing your
And here's Kingdom, which is set during the Imjin War, because it's a fantasy alternate, you know, it was zombies, not the Japanese. And so but they're using again that nebulous, that later period, that later Joseon stuff, even though this is right at that early period of where everything would have been baggy still. And you can kind of see it there on his military belt as well. Is doing that invisible obi kind of thing. So like that looks cool. And later military stuff does have a big sash, but it's not like a thing.
But like the prince with his thing, that's, I mean, it looks kind of like your tie. Is that what they?
Yeah, but he's wearing it really high up. Yeah. So like this would have been more down here. Yeah.
I have the swords backwards of what?
He's holding it. They're holding it. They're not wearing it.
So they're holding it.
Yeah. And again, like they can't wear it because it's not being supported by their waist. They're just wearing it decorative up here rather than a tie on their hips. Yes. Here's one, Bulgasal. I skipped the ending because I hated it. It turned out terrible. I hated that ending. But anyway, in the beginning it was set also in the fall of Goryeo in that supposedly transitional period. And I actually liked the silhouettes because it kind of shows, see how they have, a couple of them are tucking. They're taking like a jikiro, and then they're taking these two things, and then they're tucking it in their back on their belts. And so it's like you can wear fancy clothes and then get it out of the way. Kind of thing. And then and so you're not like ruining your outfits. That's cool. And so I thought that was really cool, and that's why I took a picture, even though like they're doing the dark emo grunge kind of very dark. And then the guy, I clipped on him in on the corner because I thought his hat was interesting. I don't know if it's accurate or not, but it's definitely there. Yeah. here it is, my country. And you can see here, they're using appliques. They're having
Or
really
more like peasant girls.
the peasant girls outfit, yeah. So like you could make hers and like do your that front panel in like a light pink, and then do the rest of it in that darker pink, and then the collar you would just make sure it's
no applique.
Yeah, no applique. And you would want it all to be wide, and you want the shoulder seams would probably be all the way down here because of how wide it is, and like that. And you can still go really long, and you can still wear a belt around your waist if you wanted. And then you can still wear just a purple pleated skirt or something.
Well, because I was thinking more like the peasant look than
the peasant look, yeah.
Because I like because I guess in this picture it would be more like what the little girl was doing.
Yeah. Because like and like I said, during this time you can kind of wear it over and you can kind of wear it under, like an extra belt. I mean,
I see. Yeah.
So it's not like completely like ahistorical to do that, but yeah. You'll just have to, and like the collars here are really thin. They would have been really high up.
Okay.
And I think even for the women's stuff, but the women's stuff would have. I don't think I've seen the double seam on the women's stuff. Because if we go back and look at the Goyo stuff, remember that thinner curved kind of collar type was also a thing. So maybe like just a couple of the undershirts were like that, or maybe you could like layer those and then not have the thicker collar. So I don't know. It's kind of a big dark void of information that even after like a couple of years of trying to dig, still nothing. So yeah, that's about all we got. So it's just kind of guesswork. And it has helped me a lot to look at contemporary neighbors' outfits. So like Japan at this time, or Chinese stuff at this time, because we do have like some Song Dynasty garments to look at and kind of extrapolate based on what we have and like look at construction maybe. So that kind of stuff. It's helped a lot, but someone was joking, he was like, why are you, if you do Korean, why are you in like the Chinese groups and the Japanese groups? And I was like, because of information. And he's like, well, we're like recreating the historical power dynamics of like, that's just how it worked in period. And so it's just kind of, he thought it was funny, but I was like, yeah, whatever. I like it all anyway.
Yeah.
And here we have Hwarong, and on the left, and Frozen Flower on the right. Do not watch Frozen Flower if you do not want a brief scene. But anyway,
good to know.
Yeah, good to know, but it does have surprisingly
Got some headbands.
yeah, more headbands, but I like the detachable sleeve look on the right for the can. And then on the left here, I'm showing Hwarong because A, they're all hot, and B,
naturally,
B, they have like that nebulous, like the tie that doesn't end. It just is. It's just a circle. It's just a circle. It's just a circle. And so like even, but on the shoot, what's his non-stage name? V in the blue. From BTS.
Yeah.
Hold on,
She was like, hold on, I have to look this up. Sarah. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, but sure.
I'm like,
you can see the two ties on the back. You can see the two ties on the right here. Yeah. So it just goes around, and then they have two ties here, and then two ties elsewhere. It's just weird, you know, whatever. Yeah. And then I cut out some of the pictures because I was trying to fit more accents in. So that's it. We made it. I think I skipped a lot. And if you want to watch I recorded a version when I was more on top of my game at the Daigaku or whatever. And so I recorded that in the new version, and I think I cover my bases a lot better in that one. So if you want to like rewatch that one. But so I can get you that link if you want. But if you have any like questions or theories or anything else I can postulate.
Just excited to meet you in person after interacting with you online.
It's a lot of information.
Just osmosis, like absorbing everything. I don't really have questions.
Yeah, I don't know enough to ask questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, could you do like within kind of still look, have the modern Hanbok look just be longer and bigger?
Yes. So like
that still be kind of
I guess if you like ordered a chima from someone, you could probably pass that off and then just make your jogachi huge. So like that could be like a way to, you mean just like for ease of use or just conceptualizing it?
Look,
just conceptualizing it.
Like the Hanbok look like but longer so that like it kind of goes below the waist.
Yeah, let me go back to the extent stuff. Because it's, you want it like super.
Yeah, like kind of long, like in over here on the right with the green and the red.
Yes. And that one's at the China Silk Museum, by the way.
Okay.
If you want to look at that one.
China Silk Museum?
Yeah, the China Silk Museum. They did like a collab with the National Museum of Korea, and they did like a whole swath of Korean garments, I think. And so there's like one PDF page somewhere, somewhere. I can't remember. It's probably in my bookmarks, but all my bookmarks bookmark in different languages, so I can never search them. I have to go through and click each one.
You can read it in your bookmarks.
I know, but I'd have to load them first and know what they are.
For the hair, I know you don't really do hair stuff.
What was
like
that?
The boy, I think it's called.
The Vigno?
The Vigno, yeah.
Yeah. That's, hairpins are classic.
Okay, so those are, okay.
Since we have time, let me see if my bookmarks are saved. Nope. Whoop.
Just has a couple of things that
don't judge me.
I just went through and played that over the device. So I went, this link's dead, this link's dead.
I don't know, probably never gonna happen.
I have, here it is.
I read like 40 dead links.
So we have some weird recreation attempts. They might not be accurate. So this is supposedly early period based off that tomb. Some illustrations. I know, it's a lot.
I'm happy with just a simple.
That would be okay.
The pin, braiding hair in the back of the head.
I guess they're saying, let's see, turn on the Google Translate, my crutch. If it loads. There we go. Okay. There. Huh. So I don't know what this says. Yeah, I can't. I'm not getting a country name out of that. But so this is what's interesting though is there was like a pile of beads in a Facebook. I get all my information from Facebook basically, and then I like reverse image search them to try to find a blog actually discussing it instead of just posting a picture.
Right.
So there was a picture of a pile of bead strings that said it was Shilla hair beads. So I think we do have extant hair beads. So this could be Shilla, a Shilla style where there's just beads in the hair. And I cannot see that picture at all. So
I was like,
and I don't really know if this one had a picture either, but yeah, we got pigtail things going on. We definitely have a lot of double hair, I guess they're calling it, where like you have two up here, two down here, or like two braids and then loop it up, and like you would kind of like do a lot of mirror work, I guess. And then this one is like a low bun thing that you would have to probably look at. Han Dynasty has a similar low ponytail kind of look. So you'd have to like look at that if you're trying to replicate that bun and you want more detail. Because Han Dynasty had tomb figurines, and so they had like little dolls that they dressed in the tombs, and they had like fake hair on them, so you can see it in better detail, I guess. And then you can kind of extrapolate to what you're seeing in the paintings here, which they are definitely very low ponytails, but see here you can kind of see where they might think it's shibori, with like the just like simple shapes like circles, squares, and like hatchwork. You could definitely do that with shibori. I like the attention to the curled front. Yeah, so I've got this blog saved, and then I've got another one saved that is a bit more wild. So let me see if I can get to that. But
I'm pretty safe just putting the braid at the bottom of the hair and sticking a pen through it.
Right. So like, yeah. And like if you're doing later period, hair down in a braid means not married, and then you would just wrap it around your bin going.
Yeah.
If you were married, so that's pretty safe. Okay, I think that's it. Yep. Let's see if it can pull it.
That was amazing. Thank you so much.
There was a question I think I saw.
Oh,
the
there's
it was about sumptuary laws and how we would apply that in this case, I think.
Sumptuary laws. For royal peers and gold, that's definitely go all out. If that's what you're asking. But like, also by
No, it's just I wanted to make sure that I understood when you said gold used by royals. Is that just active royals, or those of us who are retired, no account countesses who just want to be extra?
I would say probably dukes and counts, definitely. Especially if you're going for those really strict later period stuff. I think that's still allowable. But like I said earlier, so pre-Joseon, then literally almost anyone that was a noble probably could have some gold in their clothing. And then I'm not sure about Shilla, but I know you just kind of be more extra kind of stuff. I think because everyone's going to want to use some gold, and a lot of modern Hanbok is based off of royal clothing is the issue. And so because people like bling, so so of course, like, and that's how we have some like modern traditional Korean weddings use the royal wear for the weddings, even though they're just conference.
Yeah.
Well,
so that's what I was like, yeah.
And so, when they don't have a royal family anymore, they're just like, hey, we can wear it now. And so they're like, why not? So yeah, if you're trying to just source something, because I think the Queen of North Shield, or previous Queen of North Shield, I think she's her reign passed already, but she basically just ordered a Hanbok, a modern Hanbok, and wore it a few times. Which
they don't make modern Hanboks in my size.
She like custom made it, had it custom made for like hundreds of dollars. So like,
I got a pattern that like goes. It's like a modern size 16. That's still too small for me, but I'm gonna try to use that.
Yeah, sizes are always like gotta get.
And like especially with Chima and like women's wear, they always say like, oh, one size fits all.
No,
because it's like, well, yeah, if you want me the skirt to just be in the front and my ass to be
right? Like, that's not what I'm going for. Like, that coat is not what I'm attempting right now.
So yeah.
I mean, I figured because it was just add useful panels for that. That one was easy. I could just add in more pants.
Right.
But the jacket was what I was really concerned about making.
Yeah, and so on the jacket, you would just add more panels with this way.
Yeah.
More fabric.
More fabric.
And
fabric.
always
Yeah,
fabric this way and this way.
Yes. Well, yeah, because I figured I needed it longer because it would be earlier.
And the sleeves here would need more.
And like at one point, like I don't know if you've seen Korean dance, but they have like those elastic waistband things, and then like it makes the sleeves super long and they can flap them around for dancing.
Like so.
Yeah, but it's like on their wrist.
But
But that's because it was at one point just the whole sleeve, and they made it a detachable sleeve.
I see.
And so if you look at like sorry, I screwed up my articles, but I think it's in one of my books actually. If you open up like one of the Korean go to like a queen's outfit. Like even this on the cover. So like the way there's a yellow, red, and blue stripe right there, those would have been different sleeve panels historically.
Oh, okay.
And they just got merged in. So you would have had like the body is one color, and then the yellow, red, blue, and white.
So don't worry about buying the striped fabric.
Right.
You can use some different colors with that. So like then modern ones they've merged it all into one. Yeah. So yeah. And that's why those kind of, even though those are like out of period books, they're still kind of useful to know construction.
Yeah.
Because they're at least Korean women who are drawing these
Yes.
things that can go to museums and be like, yes, this is how it looks, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Maybe.
Maybe. But yeah, let me see if I can pull up the other hair thing because it's whack. If you guys are willing to be captive still.
I think we need to step off.
Yeah, I was like,
we need to
Okay.
yeah.
for our next engagement.
Yes.
Oh shoot,
It's noon.
I need to go somewhere
I was
too.
like,
Yeah, it is.
my friend is stuck in a class. He's like, food, please.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
for taking
thank
this
you.
class.
This
This
was
was so awesome.
Yeah, no problem.
Ma'am,